To the final week of the art of calligraphy. So we've covered a lot of ground these past 3 weeks. The first week we did all the lowercase letters, second week all the uppercase letters, third week looking at an envelope and how to do a project. Well, now just to wrap it up, I thought I would show you guys a few other hands of the flat nib calligraphy styles, so that once you get down the italic, you can maybe try other things. Now, it's important when you're working on different styles that you remember that each style has elements and attributes that are fundamental to that style. So, for example, if you're working on the italic and then you look around and find some slightly different italic capitals, that is fine because there can be slight variations, but they need to keep with the fundamentals of that style or you start to lose the style altogether. So anyway, first we're going to look at a Celtic style called uncial, which is a pretty simple style, and also it does not have uppercase and lowercase. It has just one case, uppercase all the time. So let's check that out. First we're going to look at the uncial alphabet, which is a Celtic alphabet, a hand used in a lot of the old manuscripts from Ireland, Scotland, England. And it only has one case, as I said before. But it also is only 4, not 5, but 4 nib widths high. So I'm going to take the sheet that we already have for our italic practice and just create a new line here at our 4 width high mark. And we're going to make our letters then between these two things, not all the way up to the top. Okay? Okay. So here we have A, just one stroke down and a little stroke like this. These letters are going to look very fat. They're going to look a little fatter, but that's essential to their styles, to look sort of compact. B. Now the C is really round, actually. I could have even made this more round. C. D. Now the D does go up here. The E is just like the C with a middle. E. F. G. H. I, J, K, L. Now I've included these sheets at the bottom of this video so you guys can just print this out because I'm just quickly showing you how to make some of the letter shapes. And then you can practice from there. Oh, here's my pencil. So I'm just drawing this second line. It's super important to practice with lines, with these kind of guides, because it's important that in the end you would hope that your letters are extremely uniform. Like all your D's look very similar unless you're doing some M, N, O, P, Q, super circular with these uncial strokes. Q, R. Now, actually, that I look at, I've been doing this for a long time, but what I do there, I'd say nope, because that looks too much like a K, actually. This is too high. It should be lower than that. So, to make it look like an R, there, that is way better. So that's a reject. I'm practicing now, but I realize, like, wow, I was getting on a roll there, but did the wrong thing. S, T. The T has a line at the top, and then it's almost like a C. T, U, remember these letters are very fat, little fat letters. V, W, X, oops, I almost drew it too tall there. X, Y, and Z. So when you're writing a word, these letters are very sort of compact and close together. And because you don't have an uppercase and a lowercase, they're all just going to be the same height. Now, when you see these used in sometimes some pieces, and you can see here, they're going to do an illuminated letter. So they're going to start out with a big letter that almost becomes a picture. And we saw this in some of my early examples. And you can see it right here. Like that. So it starts out with a big letter to show the beginning of like the whole piece. But then even when you get to the end of the sentences, it's not going to have a bigger letter. They're all going to be the same, just in one uniform line. And then here is what we looked at last week, even one of our pieces we were doing, which is the Roman. The Roman also, just like the uncial, doesn't have an upper and lowercase. It's all uppercase. And it's super basic, what we would consider just uppercase letters. And you can see here, if I hold my pen at the right angle, you'll see that even though I'm writing these things, there are some thicks and thins. Here's a thin one. Here's a thin on the P. And then there should be thicks where your pen is doing the full width of it, and thins where it is writing on the side. And that's what you want to work on when you practice your letters, is make sure that they have those thicks and thins, that you continue to hold your pen at a consistent angle so that it will produce those thicks and thins. You can see here's a thin, there's another thin, there's a thin, thin. Even it begins, you can see it begins and ends with these, so you can see how my pen is being kept on the angle the whole time. So that's Roman. And then here is a Gothic black letter. And I was going to show this today, but I thought that maybe I would just go with the uncial. It seemed a little simpler for a second font here. So with this, you're going to hold the pen angle more at a 40. And actually, when I started this, I started too low, so let's cut that out. But then I put it up here. So these, all of them end in a nice point at the bottom. They should have this nice point. Point, point. Even this one goes below, but there's a nice point here. It's a very pointy font. And this is sort of a medieval font. And actually, I would recommend, there's a great workbook that I'll show you in a second here, a great workbook by Alice Young called Colors and Curves, a Pilot Parallel Pen Workbook. And look, here's your pen. And this book will show you how to do, this is a sort of a graceful Gothic, it's a Gothic with a little bit more of a curve to it. And so she shows you all the ways to do it in this book, and all the exercises you can do with your 3.8 millimeter pilot pen. And you can just get this on Amazon. This is a nice practice pad there. But anyway, and then if you have the Gothic capitals, this is where things really divide. I've seen a lot of Gothic black letter, and capitals are extremely different for this font. There are many variations. So if you just stick more with this angular type letter, then you can do a lot of different types of capitals. And these are the ones that I usually do with them. And you see how actually there's these little thin lines, and some of them aren't as good because I was just practicing here, but you can just draw them with the edge of your parallel pen, which is great. These pens are really great. You can just point your pen another way, turn it, and draw those lines, because you'll never be able to do that line going straight down if you're just holding it at your 40-degree angle, you know? So there's this. Another thing to show you once you get those flat nib types down, and there's a lot of fun flat nib types, is I think I told you in the beginning of the course about the pointed pen. Now this is different because you can't really use a cartridge pen to do this. You need to have your ink and your pointed pen nib. And this is not something we're going to teach in this course, but I can show you a little bit of it because this is a dip type calligraphy. But I say you just work on them first. This is a very different type of calligraphy. Where you make the thicks and thins by putting pressure down on your pen. Like this. And the reason I show you that is if you can get your flat nib calligraphy down, then you can work on doing maybe some of this type of calligraphy one day too, and it's very, very popular right now, the scripty. And this is called copperplate calligraphy. So, okay, so we've come to the end of our course. Remember, with calligraphy, you just need to practice, practice, practice. And don't rush through your practice. Make your practice methodical and careful. Because remember, you go through the whole line, you write a bunch of B's, and then you go back and circle the one you think is best, to always try to improve on your work, right? So get yourself ready whenever you do calligraphy and just relax. So anyway, you can practice these things and go on to do excellent things. Most of the supplies you could just get on Amazon, but there's also, once you get into things a little bit more, there's also John Neal Booksellers, sells a lot of good supplies. But the great thing is, with just your Pilot Parallel pen, which you already have, and a few cartridges, you can really work your way to some beautiful things. Well, thanks for watching, and have a great rest of the summer.